On this day in Tudor history, the 1st of April, 1533, we step into one of the most dramatic turning points of Henry VIII's reign. This is the moment when Anne Boleyn's rise to queenship was real, although her coronation would not begin until June. Early April was when everything truly began to fall into place. By this point, Henry had already secretly married Anne Boleyn, but the marriage was not yet fully recognised across the country, so there was a sense of urgency. Anne was pregnant and Henry needed their child to be seen as legitimate. This was not just a romantic story, it's about power, succession, and the future of the Tudor dynasty. Henry needed a male heir, and he believed Anne would give him one. That belief pushed him to make some of the most dramatic decisions of his reign. For years, Henry had tried to end his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, but the Pope refused to grant him a divorce, so Henry took a bold step. He broke away from the authority of Rome. By 1533, Henry was beginning to establish himself as the head of the Church in England. This was a huge change. It meant England was no longer under the Pope's control in the same way, and Anne Boleyn was right at the centre. This was a huge change. It meant England was no longer under the Pope's control in the same way, and Anne Boleyn was right at the centre of this change. Anne was not a typical queen. She was intelligent, confident, and politically aware. Some people admired her for that, but others strongly disliked her. Many still supported Catherine of Aragon. To them, Anne was not the rightful queen. She was seen as the woman who had caused division and scandal. So as April 1533 began, England was deeply divided. Around the 1st of April, preparations for Anne's coronation were already underway. These preparations were not rushed or simple plans. Tudor coronations were grand, detailed, and highly symbolic. Every detail was carefully organised. Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, played a key role. He would soon declare Henry's first marriage invalid, and he would confirm that Henry's marriage to Anne was lawful. This step was essential to securing her position. At court, the atmosphere would have been tense but exciting. Supporters of Anne were hopeful. They believed that this was the beginning of a new era, but her enemies were watching closely. There was a real risk at this time. Breaking from Rome was dangerous. It could have led to rebellion or conflict with other countries. Nothing was guaranteed. Still, Henry pushed forward. Plans for Anne's public coronation were growing more elaborate. She would be presented to the people in a grand procession through London. This was meant to show strength and courage. Looking back, the 1st of April 1533 is not about one single event. It is about a moment to the build-up of her coronation. a moment when everything was being set into motion, a moment just before history fully charged, because soon Anne Boleyn would be crowned queen, and her daughter Elizabeth would be born, a child who would one day become one of England's most greatest monarchs. But in 1533, that future was still unknown. At this point, Anne was at the height of her rise. She was about to become queen, the centre of power and the focus of a nation in transition.